Let's go ahead and get started. It's 9 a.m. on Friday morning. Good morning, everybody. Hello, my name is Angela Tsukiji. I am the Vice President of Member Services here at the North State Building Industry Association. First of all, thank you all for being a member. I'm very proud to have you as members and represent you out in the community. So thank you for supporting home building in the greater Sacramento region. Today we have a special session today, Zoom session. It's presented by our Sales and Marketing Council, and it's called Selling Galt. The concept is if you are selling homes in Galt, you're selling the city of Galt. So we want you to know as much as possible and have the right connections to the people that know about Galt so that we can sell homes to happy new residents. So, with that, I would like to, yeah, yes, Aaron, huh? So, with that, at first, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We have three sponsors today: Morton and Patalo, Windermere Real Estate, and Wood Rogers. Thank you so much for supporting today's event and supporting Galt. Um, I would like to introduce our facilitator for today's conversation. His name is Chris Valencia. He is the legislative advocate at the North State BIA. He covers the city of Sacramento, Yolo County, and SMUD. Is that right, Chris? Okay.
That- yeah, that's correct.
He does a lot of other things too. He's a great addition to our staff, is very well connected and very proud to have him as a colleague of mine.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Chris, to take care of our program for the rest of the day.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And thank you everybody for joining us. This is you know, great way to start your Friday morning, get your weekend kicked off. Joining us today, we do have Aimie Mendes, the Assistant City Manager at the City of Galt, as well as Krystin Bitz, the Principal Planner. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you a little bit about them and then turn it over to them. And as you have questions, just please feel free to have a bit of a we want to keep this more conversational, so please feel free to, ask them some questions, or you can put something in the chat that I can read aloud for them. So, a little bit about Aimie. Aimie is the Assistant City Manager of the City of Galt, where she oversees the economic development initiatives and the community engagement activities. She began her career in Galt as an economic development manager and has had multiple leadership roles, including Economic Development Director and Interim Community Director. Um, Earlier this year, Aimie was promoted to the Assistant City Manager position. Um, and she prioritizes championing business attraction, retention, and community focused initiatives. Amy's public service career began with also roles in the city of Lathrop, Tracy, and Stockton, and she holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of the Pacific. Welcome, Amy. And a little bit about Kristen. She's the principal planner for the City of Galt's Community Development Department, where she oversees the planning division. They maintain and administer the city's general plan, specific plans, and development code, and they ensure compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Um, they provide professional recommendations to the Planning Commission and City Council. Kristen began her career in Galt in 2007 as a building permit technician before leaving public service, but she did return to Galt 8 years ago as an assistant planner. She is a longtime resident and moved here in 1992 when the city of Galt's population was just 10,000 people. She holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of the Pacific, McGeorge School of Law, and her land use and environmental planning certificate from UC Davis Community Professional Education. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Yes, and I am happy to have Kristen here with me. Kristen is our principal planner. As Chris mentioned, she lives here in Galt, which is really great for us because I think it's such an asset to have employees who work and live in the community, really value kind of the growth perspective and what's happening with development, and brings a little bit different perspective, I think, as opposed to some of the folks who live outside of the city, like myself. So do appreciate the relationship I have with Krystin and the work that we've done over the past several years together. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us this morning. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about our community. I think a lot of times Galt is forgotten in terms of Sacramento County. It's a little unique. We are the most southern portion of the Sacramento County. And so we have, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Can everybody see that? Okay, perfect. We are the most southern portion of Sacramento County. We do get a lot of folks saying, are you in San Joaquin County? Are you in Sacramento? We are on the very border of Sacramento County in Sacramento County jurisdiction. And so we do have a 209 area code, which is a little different, but I have been in Galt here for 10 years, and I have to say that I've really grown to love this community. And it is growing, but I think that growing really smart and slowly, and that's really from direction of our city council. And we've got great planning commissioners and everybody that's really valuing what's happening here in the community. And so Krystin and I today are going to tag team this presentation and talk about kind of a plethora of things: residential development, commercial development, obviously, but really what makes Galt special, where we're located, some of the amenities that we have that may be a little bit different from other small towns in the area, and kind of what is to come in the future. And so I will get started here with the location I talked about just a little bit. Obviously located between Elk Grove and Lodi off of Highway 99. We are a very safe, welcoming, family-oriented community. As I mentioned, we may be a small city, but everybody refers to us as the Great American Little Town. It's something that I think really relates to Galt and shows a little bit of what the community is like. And our current population is 26,000. When I started here in 2015, Galt was at 24,000. So in 10 years, we have grown roughly 10,000 or 1,000 population, which is very slow growing, as many of you would know. We are close to Sacramento's jobs and amenities. However, we do have that small town feel, and more so a bedroom community because we don't have a huge job base, but that is a focus of our city council. And so I'll talk a little bit about what we have upcoming on job creation. I did speak about the small town vibe. We have a really great old town area, and it's our downtown community. It's got such interesting charm. We have some great businesses down there. It is a really true gathering place for the community. Galt is really easy to get around. We have lots of trails. We have an abundance of parks, which I think really sets us apart from some other small cities. We are fortunate enough to have the Galt Market, which is a true revenue generator for Parks and Recreation, in addition to a sales tax measure that we have. And so we have quite a bit of investment in our Parks and Recreation and trail system. We also have a significant amount of community events. If there's one thing that really shows the small town and community pride in this community, it is the events. And so that's something we're very proud of. And our council continues to enhance the budget for special events, wanting to make sure that our community has places to gather and really celebrate. Some of the amenities that our residents really truly adore in Galt. And I live in the city of Manteca, and so a little bit larger city, but coming to Galt, it's really opened my eyes to some of the benefits of living here that in a larger city I don't even have in Manteca. And so the residents here really have the benefit of some amazing park systems. We have parks and amazing trail system that runs through the entire community. Most of our residential communities are neighboring a trail of some sort that really kind of connects you to all sorts of neighborhoods within the city. The Aquatic Center is really special to this city, really a small community, but we do have this really robust Aquatic Center, which I think is kind of a hidden gem in the community. And it has been around for a couple of decades now, but we continue to enhance that. We have a new water slide that is going to be installed. This is a picture of it. It's pretty massive. And so there's some infrastructure activity going on right now at the Aquatic Center in order to make way for this large water slide that we're going to be installing. It's actually in pieces right now outside of the Aquatic Center. The Galt Market is kind of a unique thing that has been around for decades in the community. Many of you probably familiar with the Galt Market. It operates on Tuesdays and that should say Tuesdays and Wednesdays, not Tuesdays and Thursdays. I apologize. Runs from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And really it's a produce market. It offers home goods. There are all fresh plants that you can buy. There's food trucks that are there. It has really become a robust location since COVID. When COVID hit back in 2020, what we realized was that people were afraid of shopping indoors. And so as a result, there was this huge influx of shoppers that started coming to the Galt Market. And in order to purchase food and just general basic toiletries from the market, and that's continued. We have roughly 500,000 people that come to the market every year. Each week, Tuesday, Wednesday, we see about 12,000 customers come to the market, which is amazing. And the Galt Market revenue, that vendor revenue goes directly to our parks and recreation systems. And all of our special events really, which is a benefit to the community, just all around. Our Old Town area I spoke about, we have some really unique restaurants and tap houses in the Old Town area. We have a cookie factory in the middle of our downtown. Spawns is a cookie factory that operates and they distribute nationally to grocery store and specialty store chains. They have a cute little shop in the front of their production area. We also have cupcake shops and cookie shops. It is just a true kind of great area for the community to gather and take advantage of. That's a picture of Galt Place, which is a senior affordable project, mixed use with retail and restaurants on the ground floor. There's a wine tasting room down there and also Velvet Grill, which is a real staple in this community in terms of restaurants. Some of the seasonal traditions that we had spoke about, these events that we have that are really true to this community, are the Independence Day Parade and the Christmas Parade. We have people who come from Elk Grove, who come from Lodi. These are day-long events that really start early in the morning. The Independence Day starts with the Tawn Memorial Run and goes all through the day with different activities throughout the city, and ends at the end of the day with fireworks, of course. Our Christmas Parade, the same. We have a holiday event and holiday market in the morning, and then that runs throughout the day and ends with the Christmas Parade in the evening. We have a Saturday market that runs the first Saturday of the month, March through November, which has grown tremendously. That's held in our Old Town area on the 4th Street Promenade. We have concerts in the park, we have movies in the park, and just a ton of family events that run throughout the year. The Cosumnes Preserve is a real benefit to the community. You know, obviously the bird watching and the nature walks and the outdoor recreation, but we also have a winter bird festival that runs every year in February. I believe this year it will be a weekend event, the very first weekend in February, and people come from all over the West Coast for this bird festival, which is really great for the community in terms of tourism attraction. Mentioned earlier, regional access. We have obviously easy connectivity with Highway 99 and our SCT Link Transit. We have commuter buses that run into Sacramento on a daily basis, really making it easy for folks to get in and out of the community and taking advantage of some of those amenities that we don't have here yet from a retail standpoint or restaurant standpoint, but they're coming, I promise you. From an economic development perspective, that's really important to me. I'll have Krystin go ahead and take over on the residential project pipeline. Might be something folks are interested in hearing about all of the residential activity we have going on. As I mentioned, Galt is really slow growing, but this year really we've seen some significant turnaround with the residential development market. And these are projects that have been in the pipeline for years that have finally come to fruition. So there's lots of building going on, and I'll let Krystin kind of touch on where all of those are happening.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krystin. I am now going to talk about the residential building activity that's taking place in Galt. As Aimie mentioned, there is a lot of construction taking place currently for Galt. It's a big deal compared to the other cities in the Sacramento region. It's certainly not as robust as one might think. The biggest project, residentially speaking, we have going on right now is the Liberty Ranch development, also known as the Eastview Specific Plan. That includes almost 1,500 homes. It was approved back in 2016, and they finally broke ground a little less than 2 years ago. So that is taking off. That area also will include Galt's first K-8 school concept, and there are a lot of people that are excited about that idea. It also continues the gulch and the trail system that Aimie mentioned earlier. That is an amenity that residents really do love, and so it will continue that trail system all the way out east to Cherokee Road around the high school. So that's Liberty Ranch. We
So
also
Krystin and
have,
Aimie, we do have a question in the chat.
Sure.
How does the city plan to address housing affordability while still encouraging higher-end residential products?
I think housing affordability, just from the city council perspective, is very important. It is somewhat challenging, obviously market driven a little bit. Because we're such a small community, we don't receive a lot of resources for the low income and affordable housing projects. However, we have several small lot detached projects that Krystin's going to talk about, and those are more affordable as opposed to our traditional bread and butter, which is like the Liberty Ranch subdivision, single family, detached, 6,000 to 8,000 square foot lots. There are quite a few current ones that Krystin will speak about, and then we have a few that are upcoming with the Dry Creek Oaks development here to the west. And then we also have some city properties that we will be utilizing for potential future affordable mixed use projects. But Krystin, you want to touch on those?
So thank you for that. So addressing housing affordability obviously is a challenge for all cities, big and small, and that's no different in Galt. One of the ways we try to address affordability is with zoning and density. And there are a couple of projects that are zoned for higher density infill projects, and they can provide maybe a smaller lot, a smaller home for those looking to enter the housing market, and then aren't as expensive as move up or higher end homes. One of those projects is Greenwood Cottages, which is in the north part of Galt, currently being built by Lennar Homes. That is a small lot, small home concept. So I think the smallest lot size is around 3,000 square feet. And then the homes are 2 and 3 stories. And it is one way that people get access to amenities. They are in with walking distance to park, shopping, and schools without the higher price tag on a larger lot. Another project that's similar to Greenwood Cottages is the Parlin Oaks project under construction by Blue Mountain Communities. That's also on the north side of town, adjacent to the community park in Galt, also adjacent to River Oaks Elementary School and the trail system there. So again, smaller lots, smaller homes, but within walking distance to schools, parks, and other amenities. And that plan also includes the city's first set of duplexes in more than, I think, 20 years is what we determined. So we haven't built any duplexes or triplexes in a long time. And as some as you may know, that kind of housing product is one way to kind of bridge the gap for workforce housing or that middle income where maybe somebody can't afford a single family, but they could afford to be in a duplex. So the Parlin Oaks project does offer that. In addition, they have a future phase that includes an 80-unit apartment complex on the corner. Apartments are something Galt has also not constructed since the Galt Place Senior Apartments and the Trail Ridge expansion on the other side of town. So going back to affordability, that is one way, zoning density and being able to provide a variety of housing for a variety of people. Moving on, we have Elliot
Well-
Rant. Oh, do we have another question?
We do have one more question. Are you able to share which builders are planning to join Liberty Ranch?
I'll take that. So currently, Meritage Homes is building 3 separate villages. We know that there are other home builders interested in Liberty Ranch, but I don't know publicly we're allowed to, they haven't closed on any deals. So I can think of 3. I don't know if I can actually name those 3 until they close on those maps. So that's not a great answer, but we know there's builders out there that are very close to closing a couple of deals with that developer, in addition to Meritage.
Meritage has about 100 and I think we said 174 single family that they have. They're currently under construction. Really, I mean, I think they've pulled close to 100 permits at this point, and so Liberty Ranch is moving along, and I think that they haven't slowed down on the infrastructure piece, so they're going to build out infrastructure so that those developments are shovel ready for builders to come in and purchase. So I know there's been a lot of activity out there.
Thank you, Amy. So it looks like there's another question from Winmere regarding our population growth over the next 5 years. So over the next 5 years, takes us to 2030, which is when our current general plan is valid for. So population growth, our general plan calls out a total population, I think, of around 50,000 people by 2030, which absolutely is not going to happen. It's not. It probably won't happen by 2050. As we stated earlier, our current population is just over 26,000. We haven't yet kicked off our next general plan update, but we're behind the scenes working on it with consultants and gearing up to start taking work efforts underway in 2026. So at that time, we'll probably have a better numbers and forecasting. But for now, Amy, would you say by 2030, do we get to 30,000?
I hope so. I mean,
Okay.
from an economic development perspective, right, it's the residential development is really what we need for the commercial development and the retail development. And that's what a lot of our community members want to see is those additional retail amenities and restaurant amenities so they don't have to drive out of town for that. And so we do have a lot of residential development underway right now. So I do believe that we will get to 30,000 by 2030. Galt has historically been a very slow growing community, and that's purposeful. Council really doesn't want to grow at an exponential rate. Massive housing development is not of interest to them. They like to have that small town feel. And so we've really had to balance this expectation from council along with what the demand is on the housing side. And so we do have significant housing development underway right now. And that's been a little bit of a shock to the community. We get a lot of complaints on it. Half the community wants to stay slow growing. They don't want the amenities. They don't want the housing development. Obviously, we have to grow. Cities just won't survive if you don't continue to grow your population. And so we really need the sales tax revenue piece, and the retail sales leakage here is significant. And so council recognizes that, and they know that we need to continue to grow. And so they are supportive. It just really is intentional the way that we are growing and how we're developing and moving into the future.
Amy. And then the other part of the question touches on significant infrastructure and amenity projects. So I I guess I'll jump in with the Walnut Avenue interchange is in the early design stages with city consultants and Caltrans. That will be a significant infrastructure improvement to Galt because it will provide an interchange and access over the freeway at Walnut Avenue, and that will really help the circulation in the city. So residents and business owners can get across from east to west much easier, and then connect us to future industrial growth that's planned for Walnut Avenue. Significant infrastructure. We are in the early stages of taking on an annexation project of approximately 400 acres in the northeast part of town. That land is currently within Sacramento County, but it's within our sphere of influence, and City Council has identified that as a priority because of the potential job and sales tax revenue growth that we could receive from that project. So that will be significant from Galt. It's an area of land just kind of outside of the map on the screen in the upper left-hand corner.
We'll show that too in just a few minutes. We have an area that kind of shows where that is.
Anything else on the infrastructure piece, Aimie, that I'm missing?
I would say that just roadway infrastructure wise, we do have poor connectivity east to west, and we recognize that. We have a lot of hook ramps along 99 as opposed to overpasses and interchanges. And so the Walnut interchange will be huge for us from a circulation standpoint. The Simmerhorn Ranch development actually will connect Carilion. So Carilion right now dead ends, and that will actually connect to Bosau, which is a clear connectivity also to the west side, which really helps us with circulation. So that's done. It's closed off right now because they are finalizing some of their model homes and their backbone infrastructure, but the roadway is ready to go. So we're excited to finally open up that connector into the community. And then there's just some, additional infrastructure that's happening on the east side of town because of the growth that's going on over there.
So we do have another question. Are there any new schools or other public facilities planned in the near future to support the residential growth?
Oh, good question. Thank you, Sarah. So there is a new K-8 school proposed in the Liberty Ranch subdivision in the northeast area of town. And as I mentioned earlier, that will be Galt's first K-8 school. The community is very excited about that. The high school is a separate district. They have a site identified for a third future school site in the southwest part of town. However, my understanding is they aren't interested in that site. And we don't know at this time really if a new high school is going to be built or not. But from the elementary standpoint, there is one that is being planned in the northeast area.
Yeah, the K-8 school is online, and basically they're doing their due diligence right now in the Liberty Ranch area. The high schools at this point still have a lot of capacity, and so I would not envision another high school in Galt for a very long time.
Other public facilities to support their residential growth. I think Parks and Rec has been expanding some of their programs and opportunities, so that is something that Measure Q might help in a roundabout way to help us provide those kind of amenities. We'll touch on that later, but residents in this town do love their recreation and sports activities, especially for the youth. So that's a very big part of the way of life in Galt. So there are plans to expand that for the residential growth that's coming in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to touch on some of the other projects, Summerfield, Gray Oaks,
Summerfield is a project that was annexed into Galt city limits about 5 years ago. Lennar Homes is also building that subdivision. It's on the northeast area as well. It's north of Liberty Ranch at the intersection of Twin Cities and Marengo. That is just over 200 homes. And what's unique about that subdivision is the fact that it's gated, but it's not a senior community. It will have an HOA, and it has a wonderful open space and trail system at the very northern end of that property that those that live in there will take advantage of the views and the open space and ag lands that will remain around that area because it's Sacramento County. Next up, Simmerhorn Ranch, now known as Elliott Ranch. That was also annexed into the city limits about 5 years ago. It's over 400 proposed homes. Elliott Homes is building that. Elliott Homes has been a long time partner to the City of Galt. They've been building here for decades. They build a wonderful home. The community is very excited for that subdivision. As Aimie touched on, it really helped a circulation issue in Galt by connecting Carillion Boulevard all the way down to Basso Road. And then speaking of Basso Road, we have Dry Creek Oaks Senior Development currently under construction by Riverland Homes. The single family home portion is for 55 and older. And then just yesterday, Riverland Homes officially submitted their application to take on the west side of that project. So they are planning a mixed use commercial portion that fronts Basso Road. They are planning to build 160 for sale row homes, which, going back to the housing choice and affordability question, we really kept like first time buyers in mind with that product line. And so what's great about that proposed project is technically they're attached, but they have air spacing, so there'll be individual homes for sale. And there'll be on-site amenities such as open spaces, parks, parking. So that was submitted yesterday, and then they will be setting aside a portion of that subdivision for senior rental homes, which we haven't built in a long time in Galt, not since Galt Place. And then at the very southern portion of that, an assisted living facility is proposed for seniors also. So that area has really had growth, but also important for connectivity because of the extension of Carillion Boulevard going to Basso and then all the way down to Crystal Way and the golf course there off of 99. And then jumping over to the west side of town, we have the Fairway Oaks subdivision, which isn't outlined on this map, but KHOV is under construction there. There's about 172 homes. That has been a project that has been in the works in Galt for decades, and we've finally got it going under construction. It connects to the Creekside subdivision, beautiful homes in that area, and they will have a large open space area and a continuation of the trail. Dry Creek runs along the county line there with San Joaquin County, so it's a beautiful area, and the homes will be beautiful. So KHOV is under construction there. And then further to the west, we have Catarina Estates, which has been completed. Richmond American built that. And residents in Galt were really excited about that subdivision because it was the first product that included an RV/boat garage option on some of those homes. I know somebody that lives there that bought that house for that purpose so that they could store their boat and their small trailer, and they're very happy with that amenity. As we mentioned, Galt's location is ideal because in any direction, 1 to 2 hours, you have mountains, rivers, lakes, streams, and streams. So boating and camping is definitely a way of life for many folks in Galt. So being able to have a place to store your equipment, it was a hit with the residents that live there. Just west of that project is an infill project known as Lippy Ranch. There is a home builder that's currently in due diligence on that project. That again is a small lot, small home concept, small lots ranging around 2,000 to maybe 4,000 square feet, smaller homes that will start at around 1,200 square feet. I think the largest floor plans around 1,700. So again, trying to bridge the gap between maybe a renter and a first-time buyer so that they can get into the housing market there.
So
And
Aimie and
then
Krystin,
it looks like there's, some questions that came up.
yeah. So, Jackie's written that a little bit on community engagement, that the people living in Galt don't seem to be very supportive of the building that's going on. And is the council or mayor doing any community engagement to explain why growth is necessary?
That's a good question. And, one of the things I think cities really struggle with is kind of telling their story and the things that they have going on in the background and what we've been working on. Community engagement as it relates to growth is actually part of our strategic plan. Quality growth is one of our strategic plan initiatives. And so that's something we have started kind of discussing, sort of from an education standpoint. I think people are able to make the correlation of growth of residential development brings population, which attracts retail development, which is obviously very important for the city from a sales tax component. One of the struggles is obviously keeping pace with all of the expenses within the city as it relates to personnel. We also operate our own water and wastewater treatment plant, which is a little unique for, a city the size of Galt. And so keeping up with, our expenses as it relates to personnel, but also our facilities is really important. And that's why the sales tax piece is very important to the city, but we need that population growth. And so we have discussed really engaging the community with more town hall meetings. That was one of the big kind of topics of our strategic planning session is town hall meetings to talk about growth and development and why it's necessary. And how we're managing that growth and development, and we're preparing for the future as it relates to facilities and amenities to really balance that with the community, and why it's necessary from a revenue standpoint. So yes, it is on our radar, and that's definitely something we would like to get ahead of, because I think that the narrative out there sometimes, especially nowadays with social media, it's really hard to combat some of the false narratives that are out there. And so we are looking to hopefully engage our community, really boots on the ground, talking to residents as opposed to pushing out information that can easily get misconstrued. So
Will developers have requirements or incentives for local businesses or small business preferences for construction?
Not yet, actually. That's not something I really had thought about. We do have a really robust incentive program for our local businesses. We also have incentives that we are offering to developers to offset development impact fee costs for some of the infill development. We actually have an item that's going to be going to City Council in October. That's a fee reduction for infill development purposes. So reducing, at this point right now, we've identified the traffic impact fee and the parks and recreation fee to be reduced by 75% to offset that impact on the infrastructure and entitlement costs that go into constructing some of these infill developments. And so that will go in October. That's really an incentive for the infill development piece, and trying to incentivize some of these projects that are smaller lot and lower cost for the entry level buyers. In addition, we do have a lot of incentives related to our businesses. So we have a small business grant match program where we are matching investment in the Old Town area up to $20,000 for tenant improvement, signage, ADA enhancements, facade improvements. And so that's been a really robust program, and we've had a lot of success and a ton of investment in our Old Town area as a result. So we're always looking at incentives that we can put in place to help our local businesses and our builders, specifically for some of the product lines that we really need in this community. You're not going to see us giving incentives for, some of the traditional single family developments. However, we have amazing customer service. That is one thing I can tell you from just working in the community development department. We bend over for really backwards for our developers to help them kind of get through the process and to streamline things and babysit our public works department a lot. They're really busy, and so it's hard for them to kind of stay on top of some of these projects that are coming at them in all directions. including the city project. So we've got great, staff over in community development who are able to usher some of those projects through. So those are some of the things that we do. And that's ever changing. We're constantly trying to think outside of the box on ways to incentivize development in the community that really is meaningful and impactful to our residents and to our businesses.
Okay. We do have a question about duplexes that were mentioned earlier. The duplexes that you were talking about being built, are these half plexes for individual purchase or more intended for the rental market?
They're future releases for Parlin Oaks, and I believe it's either. Like, I could go buy one and rent out the other half, or a company or corporation could come in and buy them, if that answers the question. My understanding is, yeah, they're for sale. Blue Mountain Communities does not intend to keep them and rent them out themselves. So private ownership is encouraged with those.
Okay. And then what criteria do infill projects need to meet in order to be eligible for fee reductions?
We're really trying to be flexible with our development impact fee reduction. Krystin and I actually had this conversation yesterday because we have a couple of projects that we really want to make sure we are able to accommodate with this fee program, because they're really meaningful and important projects. And so we would like to see them develop, and whatever we can do to help bridge that gap is kind of what we're looking at right now. So the Lippy Ranch project, and then also we have a project in the Northeast area that we are currently entitling right now in this area that we're hoping to be able to utilize that fee reduction with as well. So in the future, really it's focused on infill development and trying to fill in some of these areas that are vacant that we're currently focused on kind of developing.
Okay, so we do have one more that just came in. Is it correct that Galt is still paying water fees because the water isn't meeting the criteria for clean water? Will these projects contribute to cleaner water for residents?
That is a public works question. From what I understand, and Krystin, you might be able to chime in from a public works perspective if you have any information, but I've never heard that we have any water quality issues. We are a member of the Cosumnes Groundwater Authority. We are reliant on groundwater, but from what I understand, it's much more reliable than surface water. And so we've got our own water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. And so as far as I know, that's not something that has ever been brought to my attention of concern.
I don't have anything additional to chime on there, but I would like to get maybe Caitlin get a good answer to that question from our public works director. Great question. I don't have an answer.
We haven't heard anything though that has been an issue, but we can follow up. Okay. So from a commercial standpoint, one of the most important projects that we're working on right now from an economic development standpoint, as we talked about the sales tax leakage problem that we have in this community, we are currently probably losing about $4 million a year in sales tax to other communities, neighboring communities, probably Lodi majority and Elk Grove. Unfortunately, because we just don't, outside of Walmart and Tractor Supply, we don't have any other, big box type users here in the community. We also don't have the fast casual dining options that you see in some of the other neighboring communities. And so a lot of our residents are driving outside of town to go to Costco and shop for clothing, shoes, just basic home goods and amenities. And so that is a focus for us right now as it relates to this project, which is Galt Ranch. Galt Ranch is located off of Highway 99. It's actually between the Simmerhorn off-ramp and the C Street interchange. And so you'll see it clear as day when you're driving northbound on 99. It is right on the freeway. And so we are currently working with a developer right now. We have an application in the community development department. It is roughly 45 acres in total. There are several pads already that are in contract for development. A lot of the community has heard word of Maverick. We've been working with Maverick for over a year now. They are interested in this property. They have to go through a conditional use process, as does any other drive-through or use that would require a CUP. And so in December, more than likely, is when we will see this project come to Planning Commission for approval. It will include conditional use permits for drive-throughs, also a conditional use permit for the convenience store for Maverick, along with environmental and all the other fun things that go along with the entitlement process. And so several of the properties on the most northern area of the site off of Simmerhorn are in contract, as well as Maverick, which is actually going to, they're interested in this parcel right here, right off of the interchange. So kind of hidden behind the C Street interchange is where Maverick is interested. So this hopefully will be the starting point for, retail attraction. And I'll be at ICSC in Palm Springs next week, marketing this site to potential users, retailers, brokers, developers. And we're hoping that this is sort of that regional shopping center that really helps with that sales tax leakage problem. And so there are quite a few fast casual users, fast food users. There is a car wash, a gas station, as I mentioned, Maverick. There's locations for medical office and pad sites for other types of junior box users. And so this is important to me, this is important to the city, and we're really excited about the prospect of this development moving forward. So we're hoping that next year we will see some construction happening out there at some point. Moving into just kind of what's on the radar for Galt and what we are working on at the city and what's important from the city council perspective as it relates to our strategic priorities. One of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is the growth and development of Galt. We are slow growing, but that doesn't mean that we are just kind of waiting around for development. We are looking to update our general plan. I'm going to let Krystin kind of touch on that really quick, and then I can go into some of the other items that we're working on from a development perspective, large scale type stuff.
Thanks, Aimie. So we mentioned next year we are kicking off efforts to update our general plan. And as we've talked about housing and affordability, that's going to be a big issue for Galt and our city council and planning commissioners to grapple with. So you can see from the map in front of you that Galt is in a little bit of a challenge because we don't have a lot of room to expand out in the directions that maybe other cities might have. To the east, to the north, we have unincorporated Sacramento County, but there is a lot of small creeks and eventually like a state preserve that's to the north there. So that limits how far we can go. To the east is the unincorporated area of Harold. And so we really can't expand beyond Cherokee Road, which is where our current boundary is. To the south is the San Joaquin County line and Dry Creek. So we can't go south. To the west is a lot of existing smaller ag users and rural residential uses. Beyond that boundary, though, is the Casumas River Preserve. So again, a lot of waterways and flood areas. So we really can't go too far west also. So our goal, our plan is going to be focusing on the intensification of the Old Town and downtown areas, really ramping up infill construction and opportunities for the undeveloped parcels in Galt, allowing landowners to get better and higher uses out of their property. And then for housing, ADUs are becoming, I think, a bit more popular in Galt. It was slow to start. We do get asked a lot, but I think that's going to be one way to get additional residential uses in a city that really can't expand its boundaries because of the current environmental conditions surrounding the city. So from a general plan perspective, we'll be focusing on infill, downtown, Old Town revitalization. And again, starting that off next year. And then, of course, I'm assuming most people on the call are familiar with the housing element as part of the general plan. And we'll be kicking off, believe it or not, the next cycle, starting off with some data sets from SACOG next year too, which we'll be incorporating into our general plan update.
Thanks, Krystin. And then one of the other items that really is an important project from job creation standpoint for the city is an industrial annexation. And so our existing industrial area is this gray area west of 99 that is almost fully developed. We did annex roughly 280 acres of this industrial zoned area here, which was north of Live Oak. However, it's encumbered quite a bit by a floodplain. And so it's been a little challenging for us to develop. Most of the usable acreage is to the north, and there's not any infrastructure there. And so the city does have we have a study underway, an engineering study that we're working on with a consulting firm to determine how we can potentially minimize the floodplain area so we have some more usable area for industrial development here. The Walnut Interchange will be a great asset to this area in terms of transportation and access. But our next venture for annexation is going to be north of Twin Cities. So this area west of the freeway, up by our wastewater treatment plant in the northwest area, is about 400 acres and it's currently for sale. And so we have been working with the property owner and with the broker to begin some pre-development activities. This is a huge opportunity for us from an industrial development standpoint. It is 400 continuous acres that we would like to see developed as industrial, specifically for manufacturing and job creation. And the pre-development activities we are looking to do are essentially an annexation and environmental to get this property ready for development purposes. It's rail served. So the UP rail line runs north to south here on the west side of the property, which is very hard to find in on the West Coast, 400 continuous acres with rail service. And so we will be working with UP on potential rail spurs here as we move forward with annexing this and starting that development process. We've had lots of interest from different developers, but we would like to kind of start this from an environmental and pre-development standpoint and get this under control within the city limits. So this will be really a focus for us moving into the future. Also, as it relates to transportation access, we'll be in discussions with Caltrans on potentially looking at maybe a future interchange at Mingo. So this is definitely on our radar. It's part of our strategic plan, and we will be moving forward with that within the next year. The Walnut Avenue interchange, we've already talked about a little bit, really kind of servicing the existing industrial area, but also providing transportation access for Liberty Ranch area through the Walnut Avenue roadway system. What we're trying to do is alleviate some of the traffic off of Twin Cities and these Twin Cities roundabouts, because they're really impacted right now from a residential standpoint, and we think that the Walnut Avenue interchange will really help alleviate that. For parks and recreation purposes, Measure Q has been a game changer for this city. We had a sales tax measure that was passed in 2022, Measure Q, which is a 1 cent sales tax that is a general sales tax, but has been dedicated by resolution of the city council strictly to parks and recreation and special events. So that is roughly $4 million a year that we are generating specifically for parks and recreation and landscaping and maintenance purposes, kind of all of the above. We have utilized these funds already for enhanced landscaping and maintenance, but also several projects that we have coming in the pipeline for Parks and Recreation. One of them is, this says skate park expansion. It's actually a brand new skate park that is being installed. We've ripped out the old skate park and we're putting in a brand new one. That will be under construction next year. I mentioned the aquatic center water slide. I think that that is anticipated to open before the next swim season. They are putting that together currently. And then Walker Park, we have a pretty sizable regional park in the west area of town. Walker Park currently has, which is here, is a turf football / soccer field that is gated and has stands for viewers. We're adding this additional piece here, which is 3 baseball / youth softball fields. And there to this north area here are already existing grass turf soccer fields. So this we're hoping to really see some sports tourism attraction to this area on the west side of town. The overall Walker Park total project plan includes a community center. There is also additional fields that are anticipated out there. And so this is just one of the phases that we are moving forward with, and we expect that to be under construction next year. The Galt Master Plan update. The Galt Market, as I mentioned earlier, is a little bit of a crown jewel for the city. It's been around for years and years and years. And, you know, cities, I think, are challenged a little bit when it comes to operating businesses like the Galt Market. We have not revitalized this market or invested in it in a very long time. And so back in 2021, we, with a grant from the California Energy Commission, we were able to put together a plan that encompassed the Galt Market property in total. The city received this property from the state of California, and it's deed restricted. And so it's roughly 40 acres. It encompasses kind of all of these areas that you see. Well, this is the school district property, but everything else really kind of that is shown here with buildings, notwithstanding the green, is city-owned property. And so the idea with the 2021 Galt Market Community Plan was to revitalize the market. Also included a lot of private development investment. And so there was some housing development that was included as part of it. We were looking at some retail development to take advantage of kind of the freeway access and just the massive amounts of customers that are coming into the market every week, and having this as kind of a retail attraction hub. There was a senior housing component here. We were working with the school district on potentially putting some housing here on the west side of the property as well. The city council ultimately accepted this project plan, but they had a really hard time with the idea of selling the property. It's deed restricted. We would have required some type of legislative action in order to sell the property. And there wasn't a ton of community support for it. Council wasn't really in favor of selling any of the property. But the idea at the time was that we needed that revenue source from these properties to revitalize the Galt Market property. And we did not have the funds to, move forward with this revitalization effort without the private investment. Council was not, it was very aggressive, I think, from a council perspective. And so we accepted the plan, and we have recently revisited this plan. So what we've talked about with this plan is sort of updating it, taking all of the parts that the community liked and the businesses and the vendors at the market were in approval of, and removing that private investment piece, not selling the property, and maintaining that deed restriction. And the deed restriction essentially states that we have to use any funds generated off of this property for parks and recreation purposes, which is why the revenue from the Galt Market goes directly to Parks and Recreation. But we have to use the property for Parks and Recreation purposes. And so the idea would be that we don't have to change the deed restriction, because we will be revitalizing the Galt Market as planned. This is an old plan. We have, updated this. We're working with an architect, the same architect that did the original plan, on putting together a new sort of enhanced revitalization of the Galt Market property, so that we can take down the old cyclone fencing and barbed wire that's out there and put in some robust landscaping and really make it an attractive place for the community, for the vendors, for the shoppers, but also to utilize that space, not just on Tuesday and Wednesdays, but for other types of events, and to really make it kind of a multi-use property. We also have identified as part of this putting in a new city hall and civic center. And so there is going to be space for a new city hall and civic center, really kind of encompassing the Galt market as part of that, revitalizing the softball fields. The softball complex is located here on the northeast side, the southeast side, excuse me. We will be revitalizing the softball complex, not getting rid of it. We're not pursuing the retail piece. We are going to be doing some mixed use on some of the properties that are not deed restricted, which is where City Hall is currently. And so this is a really, exciting plan for us. With Measure Q, we have a funding source now to do some of these enhancements and modifications. And so it's a great opportunity for us moving into the future to make a really special place for the community and for the region, really from that aspect. In addition to the Galt Market Master Plan piece of it, we're also encompassing an Old Town Visioning Plan as part of it, engaging our Old Town businesses and the stakeholders in taking advantage of some of the underutilized space in the Old Town area and creating a connection to the Galt Market property, really kind of making this more of a pedestrian connectivity to the Old Town area, where we are looking to activate a lot of our spaces that are underutilized. We have a lot of property along the railroad, that right now is just used for parking. We want to bring in other activities to really synergize some of those spaces. The city owns property in the Old Town area, and so we would like to look at doing some additional mixed use projects, market rate mixed use projects in the downtown, and getting some more affordable, kind of rental property in the downtown area, but also creating more pedestrian activity down there. So that's the Galt Market Plan. Lastly, this is our last slide, just talking about our recent City Council strategic planning session. Some of the initiatives that we have moving forward as part of our strategic plan, which will come to City Council for approval in October or early November, I believe. The items that we're really focused on are quality of life. That is key for our City Council. It's key for city staff, creating a really enjoyable quality of life for the community is the most important to us. And so that's a focus in our strategic plan. Economic development, obviously, job creation, retail is a big part of that. Fiscal sustainability, I think that's part of every city's strategic initiatives. Infrastructure is big, maintaining our infrastructure, enhancing it, and just having it ready for future development. Employee engagement is very important. One of the city's, I think, biggest struggles is hiring quality employees who stay here. We obviously it's a small city, and so we don't pay as much as some of the neighboring communities do. And so we have to get really creative in the way that we engage our employees. And one of the things that we just adopted not too long ago, actually, this was a couple months ago, is a down payment assistance program. So our City Council allocated funding to a down payment assistance program for our employees. So an employee who's been here for 2 years has the ability to obtain $25,000 for a home in Galt. And so it's a forgivable loan. After 10 years, that's forgiven, and it provides a little bit of assistance from a down payment perspective for our employees. And as I mentioned earlier, having employees who live in the community and work here is really special. We have a lot of employees who live here and work here, and I think it's really hard to put into words the importance of that and the value that that brings to your I would say the camaraderie with your employees and the people who share a vision for the community. And so I'm really excited about that down payment assistance program. And I think that a lot of our younger employees are really excited to take advantage of that. And then responsible growth. I mentioned that the City Council is not wanting to build houses on every available parcel in this community. They're really thoughtful about how we move forward with growth. And so that's an important aspect for them. that is the end of our presentation. I know it's a lot to kind of to absorb, but we wanted to make sure we encapsulated some of those important pieces of what's happening in Galt. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. We are a little past time, so I want to thank everybody for, sticking with us and joining us today. I especially want to thank Aimie and Krystin for joining us to talk about Galt. And I also want to give one last shout out to our sponsors, Morton and Portola, Windermere and Wood Rogers. And just wrap it up for the day and say thank you, everybody. Please have a great Friday and enjoy your weekend.